All right, guys. Well, karibuni tena to the show. This is Full Circle with Joyce. And this morning, of course, being Style and Culture Friday, one of the things we want to talk about is interior styling. You know, how can you spruce up your space? You know, just give it that little edge, give it that little something, yeah? And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. And joining me in studio, I have Ash Appleton, who's an interior stylist. And she also has a YouTube page, I believe, called An African Eye, right? Karibu sana to the show. And we're pleased to have you here with us. And guys, as we continue with the discussion, you can send in your comments, your questions. Perhaps it's something specifically you've been thinking about. Perhaps Ash is able to help you out this morning. The SMS line is 22999. You can also reach us on our social media platforms. That's at Switch TV KE on Instagram and at Switch TV Kenya on Facebook and Twitter. So with that, Ash, let's get started. Interior styling. I like that you're very specific about interior styling and not decorating.
Yeah.
Why are you so clear about that?
Because when you talk about styling, it's more holistic. You think about the whole picture. For me, when you say decorating, people think, oh, just putting little bits and pieces here. Mm-hmm. But it's like your style. Mm-hmm. When you think about your style, it's everything, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I want that same concept to translate into homes.
Okay.
So it's a style. It's not just little rooms.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing taken together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in terms of thinking about interior styling, are there some key elements that sort of make up that style? What are your styling principles?
I think before we go anywhere, you have to have an idea of what style you want to evoke in your home. And a lot of people don't do this. They just start with, okay, I love this dining table. I'm going to get a sofa. My auntie gave me this chest of drawers. So we end up with bits and pieces that don't really hang together. Mm-hmm. So before you start anything, it's like, what kind of style do I like? Do I like traditional, modern, contemporary, rustic, shabby chic? Mm-hmm. It's a good idea to have to think about these things.
Yeah. You might have to explain those a little bit, because I think at this point, some guys, maybe you're just moving out for the first time. You're just concerned about having a place to lay your head. But maybe talk us through some of the different styles, like maybe the three most common or something.
My style is more sort of clean lines, modern, almost like the studio set. Mm-hmm. Modern, clean lines, bright colors, very considered, where I put the things. I think about where I place things and how they all hang together. Mm-hmm. Where some people like more traditional, like more of how our parents decorated,
Sure.
And there's an also move towards a sort of rustic. So everything looks a little bit unfinished and casual and relaxed. Mm-hmm. So maybe you like more relaxed style, or more formal, or something in between. Yeah. And you can also mix styles. It's not like you have to have one rigid look.
Okay.
So that's the concept behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then in terms of injecting your personality, you're saying it's absolutely possible to do that even with your home.
I think it's vital. It's so important to inject your personality into your home. Think about it. We lead very stressful lives. We're out and about, traffic, work. So home is where you should relax. Mm-hmm. So it's got to reflect who you are. Mm-hmm. And increasingly, we're living in apartments, whether we're renting or we're buying, and they all tend to look the same, don't they? Think about it. All apartments sort of is a standard, so unless you can afford a really high end.
Right.
So that's why it's so important then to personalize your space, so it stands out and looks a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for someone who say has a larger room or even a small room, but they're trying to create different zones within that room, what would be your advice?
And that's another thing about going back to apartment living. You tend to get an open plan sort of a concept. We don't have separate dining rooms or living or like study areas. So what you're trying to do by zoning is create mini rooms within a large space.
Yeah.
So, there's quite effective ways of doing this. A quick one is like rugs. Mm-hmm. So in your living room, have maybe a wool rug, and then in the dining area, have maybe a sheepskin or something else or cowhide. So that immediately tells people, oh, look, there's a different function to this section of the room.
Right.
And that's or you can use like partitions, bookshelves, tall plants even, screens, just a section. And it adds a bit of interest.
Can you use different colors and shapes of rugs if you can't find, say, the sheepskin or the...
No, of course, like you could, have a circular rug, almost like this studio in maybe the living area, and then have maybe a rectangular one in the dining area. But then, even though you're zoning, the look has to hang together.
It needs to be cohesive.
It has to be cohesive. You don't want everyone like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Sure.
So, that's a concept.
So, a lot of people want a big TV in their house,
yeah.
but sometimes it just ends up looking like a big black wall, a big black hole rather in the middle of your wall.
Yeah.
What would you say about like sort of styling around your TV, because it ends up being a focal point of many living rooms?
Unfortunately, that's a problem. You know, we sort of put the TV in the main wall, and then we sort of arrange the furniture around the TV. So that's a focal wall. And you don't really want that, because that takes away from your style. So I'd advise you to try maybe move the TV to another, maybe a side wall, so that then you can style the main wall and you're not looking at the TV. Or if you can't do this, style around the TV.
Yeah.
Hang up pictures, arrange ornaments, you know, at the base of the TV, you know, so that your eye, that distracts away from the TV.
Sure.
Or a very quick trick is to paint behind the television. Paint it a darker color.
Really?
Like gray or black. So what happens is then the TV disappears immediately.
Right,
you know, it's a simple trick. Just paint behind it. Obviously, it's not going to work so well on a huge wall, but if you put it on the side wall, it's a very easy trick to do.
Okay.
Or build a cabinet, and then with doors.
Yeah.
So that when you're not watching TV,
You can
Yeah.
cover it up.
and it also encourages you to be present. When people come around, you haven't got the TV on, and you know everyone's staring at the TV and
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
and that
yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you seem to love color.
love
You've
colour.
mentioned that
Yes. Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit already.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we then incorporate color into our homes? For me, I think, and for many people, that's one of the scarier things. It's probably one of the easier fixes and one of the best things to do to really
Yes.
change up
Yeah.
a space.
Yeah.
But if you get it wrong, I mean, it can be wrong.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I think a lot of people shy away from color, because they don't know where to start. But I would say start small. Start with those the little, you know, start with maybe cushions, or you know, bring them in. They add a bit of color.
Yeah.
You know, or do a little wall, or do your, you know, your cloakroom. Your don't start with a big room, because obviously that's what's going to intimidate you.
Okay.
And try and think about think in terms of color palette. What colors do I like? It's not just, oh, I want red, you know, or I want blue. Think about the colors that go together and that you want to have in your space.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you, part of your brand, or your brand, you call it an African eye.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're very into like African
Yes,
elements,
absolutely.
African motifs,
Yeah, yeah,
perhaps,
yeah,
and
yeah,
designs.
yeah.
Tell us about how your why that specifically in an age where, you know, a lot of people are running to rustic, or I
Yeah,
don't know,
yeah.
mid-century, and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these other design styles. Why African for you?
You see, I'm Kenyan, I'm African, I live here, and we've got so much richness in terms of culture and art and beautiful handmade, you know, objects and ornaments that we can buy. They're not mass produced, so why not celebrate what we have? And that's my ethos, but I want to use them in a modern way, because people shy away sometimes. They think, oh, it's a bit boring, it's a bit
Plus,
dull.
when you think of African,
Yeah,
we think of
yeah.
those, you know, those masks you see.
Yeah, and a bit, oh my God.
The
you
ones
know,
that
yes.
tourists
yes.
like buy.
You know what I mean? So that puts people off. They don't think about the African art and design in a fresh way. And that's
Right.
what my mission is.
Yeah.
To show that we can use it in a very fresh, exciting way. Also using a lot of recycled materials. I love art made from recycled materials.
Okay.
And in my house, I have a lot of, you know, African art, you
Yeah.
know, made from metals, even old fridges,
Wow.
cables, paper, you know, and they're beautiful pieces, individual, unique pieces.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah.
unfortunately for most people, they'd also argue that it's seeming like, as much as we're right here in Africa, in Kenya, where you'd say that African art and whatnot should be easily available, a lot of people also find it quite expensive, just because I think previously it's been targeted towards tourist and, you know, Western markets. So for someone really trying to sort of bring that, a regular Kenyan trying to bring that into their home, what would you advise as far as how to go about that?
No, but I think that's not necessarily true, because we have so much that's actually affordable. I mean, go to the Maasai market, but go there with a fresh eye. If you pick up a mask, maybe spray it pink or gold.
Interesting.
It's still the mask, but you've made it. You've kind of brought your own personality and your own touch to it. There are lots of things you can do. Fabrics, use them in a different way. You know, yeah.
So even like the
yes.
kangas or the Maasai
Yeah.
blankets,
Yes.
there's all sorts of things you could do with those as well.
Yeah, you can contemporize them, and I think that's my sort of approach to it.
Yeah.
And then look for maybe unusual pieces. Don't look for the touristy things. That's made the mistake that people make. Is that okay, I'm going to buy African, but I'm going to buy what the tourists buy. So it's like the, carving of the Maasai or something. You know what I mean? And living here, that may not kind of resonate in the way we want to reflect our homes. But like I use a lot of iron, I love sort of, ornaments made from iron, rustic. And sometimes I even spray them. I paint them just to, change things up a bit and make them a bit different.
Okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have a Facebook page that people can sort of
Yes.
refer to?
Yes.
How can people get in touch with you? Perhaps, they've watched this and they've said, very interesting.
Okay.
Perhaps I'd like to get in touch with you.
Okay, my handles on Facebook are An African Eye on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel, An African Eye.
Okay.
And
you teach design there, or you showcase design?
Yeah,
or?
I show and tell how to create vibrant modern spaces.
Okay.
So there are episodes that drop every week.
Okay.
Yeah, on that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming, Ash, and just sharing your thoughts with us. I think certainly a good challenge to us to not look at African design and African art the way most of us have perceived it, right? To understand that there's actually something very beautiful about it, and we can have really awesome homes with it.
Yeah. And we're so lucky to live here where we have so much access to beautiful handmade things.
True. We have our colors, we have our culture, and we should embrace it all.
Yeah. So embrace color, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Ash.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, for having me.
Appreciate you.
Absolute pleasure.